Hi, welcome to the Unification Nation presentation. This chapter will be about Chapter 22 of Spielvogel's Western Civilization. The chapter focuses on the major changes in Europe from the years 1850 to 1871. During what seems to be a very short time span, many changes happened in Europe, such as Napoleon III's rule and the unification of Germany and Italy. Other topics, such as cultural and scientific changes, will also be discussed. Starting with the French Empire, France had an upcoming leader, Napoleon III, who was elected majoritively by the French people, though debatably by force, on December 2nd, 1852. From here he established the Second Napoleonic Empire, gaining control of the country's legislation and war politics. Fortunately, Napoleon III was a very good economic leader and modernized Paris. However, Napoleon wasn't as proficient with dealing in foreign policy. In order to seek greater opportunities in the Americas, he sent troops to Mexico, where he hoped to control the markets. While this was happening, the British and the Spaniards started to withdraw their troops due to controversy within Mexican politics. But Napoleon saw this as an opportunity, so he sends Archduke Maximilian of Austria to become the Emperor of Mexico. Now obviously the Mexican people did not like this at all and soon overthrew him as soon as they noticed that he had no army to defend him. This quickly put a lot of shame on Napoleon. Another topic that Napoleon played part in was the Crimean War. Basically, the Ottoman Empire was in a state of decline pre-1850, and Russia wanted to extend its sphere of influence onto Asia Minor. Fortunately for Russia, the shared religion between them and Greece made an excellent scapegoat for attacks. However, a lot of other countries knew what the cost of owning the territory would be, becoming a major European power. As a result, France and Britain became concerned over Russia taking this power and fought. The result of the war was Russia losing power in the Balkans and the creation of the Treaty of Paris. Pre-unification Italy was mainly controlled by the Austrian Empire until the efforts of King Victor Emmanuel of Piedmont. Politics in Italy changed when King Victor appointed Camillo di Cavour as the Prime Minister of Piedmont. Cavour was a smart economic leader and made changes in economic policy in order to support a larger army. Though this attempt was noble, he knew that he could not defeat Austria on his own. Soon Cavour sought Napoleon III's help in defeating the Austrians' control of Italy. The initial plan was to drive the Austrians out of Italy with Napoleon's help and in return give them the territory of Nice and Savoy. While it was initially successful at driving out the Austrians, the French did not fully complete the deal and retreated. This was due to a moving Prussian army and Austria's army. Cavour was upset with this decision and only gave Lombardy to France instead. Another major leader in the unification was Giuseppe Garibaldi. Garibaldi was successful at raising an army known as the Red Shirts. His army would initially gain control of Sicily and later of the Italian peninsula. Through clean victories, carefully not provoking another country's influence in the area, Garibaldi was successful in creating the base of the Italian unification. However, it wasn't until future wars that Italy became a whole. Before the German unification, the two states of Austria and Prussia controlled the Germanic regions of Europe, and the two were rather friendly. Prussia developed a class-based controversial constitution that feared the middle class under King Friedrich William I. He wanted to expand the Prussian military by taking out the middle class, but this desire was rejected by the Prussian legislature. This led to the appointment of Otto von Bismarck, a major player in German history. Bismarck is commonly known for practicing realpolitik, where he performed whatever was practically best for the state and keeping emotions and morals out. Bismarck had a unique war policy where he would only fight one nation at a time. The first war he waged was for territory of Denmark, what he claimed to be German lands. Prussia and Austria worked together and cleanly took the land and split it between the two countries. In the Austro-Prussian War, Prussia made a decisive victory over the Austrian Empire while keeping the business of other countries out of his way. The war resulted in a slight territory gain across the German land. Preluding the Franco-Prussian War, France became worried because they would be surrounded by the Hohenzollern family members. France forced William I to withdraw Leopold from taking the Spanish throne, so they wouldn't be encircled. William forcingly accepted this and made a telegram of apology to be sent to Napoleon III. However, Bismarck got the message and tampered it to make sure France would declare war on Prussia. Bismarck's secret plan was successful and started the Franco-Prussian War. First, Bismarck's army allied with the southern Germanic states, and together captured an entire French army, Napoleon III included. 4 months later, the Prussian army went on to take Paris, forcing France to pay 5 billion francs and to hand over the provinces of Alsace and Lorraine. Before the war ended, Bismarck was proclaimed Kaiser of the Second German Empire at the Palace of Versailles. After Austria's defeat in the Italian War in 1859, the Emperor Francis Joseph attempted to establish an imperial parliament with a nominated upper house and an elected lower house. This complicated system ensured a German-speaking majority, which alienated the various ethnic groups within the empire, particularly the Hungarians. Another military setback forced the Austrians to deal with the Hungarians once again by setting up the Ausgleich of 1867, which created the dual monarchy of Austria-Hungary. The two states were linked only by having the same monarch, a common army, foreign policy, and a system of finances. The creation of the dual monarchy of Austria-Hungary allowed the Magyars and German-speaking Austrians to dominate their ethnic minorities. The Russian Imperial Autocracy, based on soldiers, secret police, repression, and censorship, had withstood the revolutionary fervor of 1848 and even served as the arsenal of autocracy in crushing revolutions elsewhere in Europe. Tsar Alexander II issued an emancipation edict on March 3, 1861, which abolished serfdom in Russia. In 1864, the Tsar instituted a system of zemstvos, or local assemblies, that provided a moderate degree of self-government. The Tsar also created a regular system of local courts and provincial courts, and a judicial code that accepted the principle of equality before the law. The largest change in Great Britain during this time period was the rule in the start of the Victorian era. Under her role model leadership, Queen Victoria pushed Great Britain to stronger labor and law policies into the start of the 20th century. The most major industrial change on the continent was the mass expansion of railroads. The expansion of railroads is quite important. The railroads supported major industries such as iron and textile. Railroads can also be used to mobilize an army a lot faster than on foot. European governments played a role by encouraging the formation of joint stock investment banks, which promoted the use of railroads, resulting in a risky business of transporting materials across the country for production and growth purposes. Just a quick background of Karl Marx. Marx was raised in a well-off middle-class German family. Marx later attended the University of Berlin, where he received a PhD in philosophy. Though wanting to teach at the school, he was denied due to his atheist beliefs. From there, he moved his position to become an editor for an upper-class liberal newspaper, but was again denied, but this time for his radical views. Eventually, Marx ended up in Paris, where he met his best friend in financial aid, Friedrich Engels. From here, Engels told Marx of the wage slavery of the British working class. Marx now had a much larger idea of the struggles of the working class. Soon Marx put his ideas into the well-known writing, the Communist Manifesto. The book describes how there have always been conflicts with classes in society in the past, and how it relates to their modern day. The industrial working class that Engels told Marx of is mentioned as the proletariat. These proletariat working class will eventually rise against their upper-class employers and create a dictatorship to reorganize the means of production. This dictatorship and its government are, from what Marx said, would be a classless society that would progress in production, technology, and benefits for all. Though during the time of the Communist Manifesto it had little to no meaning, Marx's work proved to have a snowball effect in the future generations to come. The idea of rational and observational thought brought about new theories of the natural world, but these things were still only being taught and cared about by the upper class. One major discovery was the germ theory of disease, which contributed to many of today's modern medical practices. Another major invention by Michael Faraday was the creation of the primitive generator that had long-term effects on the production and use of electricity. The increasing amount of secularization led to the belief of materialism.
Materialism is the idea that everything is mental, or in the spiritual world, was a result of physical forces. This was especially influenced by Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection.
Yeah.
This is the Shadow Ninja.
Darwin was also known for founding the organic evolutionary theory, which is basically the process or development over time of organisms. Altogether, Darwin theorized that all life is struggling to exist. This time period saw an increase of medical schools and research with the adaptation of the natural sciences. Scientists such as Pasteur founded the science of bacteriology, which led to vaccines for diseases like rabies and typhoid fever. Realism. The belief that the world should be viewed realistically was closely related to the materialistic outlook of the mid-1800s. This was evident in the politics of reality of both Bismarck and Cavour. The word realism was first used in 1850 to describe a new style of painting and soon spread to literature. Realism was the dominant literary and artistic movement in the 1850s and 1860s. Literary realists wanted to deal with ordinary characters from actual life rather than romantic heroes in unusual settings, and also sought to avoid flowery and sentimental language by using careful observation and accurate description. Famous literary realists are Gustave Flaubert, William Thackeray, and Charles Dickens. Characteristics of artistic realism are a desire to depict the everyday life of ordinary people, an attempt at photographic reality, and an interest in the natural environment. Famous realism artists are Gustave Courbet and Jean-Francois Millet. The music of this time period is known as the Twilight of Romanticism. The mid-19th century witnessed the development of a new group of musicians known as the New German School. This school emphasized emotional content rather than abstract form, and championed new methods of using music to express literary or pictorial ideas. Famous great musicians of this time period were Franz Liszt and Richard Wagner.